So simple random samples aren't the only ways that you can reliably take samples for your data. There are some other sampling methods that we do need to discuss briefly. Although simple random sample is certainly the method that's going to show up most often. Anytime we are talking about a probability sample, that's just sort of an umbrella term. A simple random sample is a type of probability sample, and that just means if you have a probability sample, that's a sample that is chosen by chance, which is, of course, what you want. In order to have a probability sample, you need to know what various samples are possible, what your various possibilities are when you choose that sample, and then what chance each of those possible samples has of being selected. And we'll talk a little bit more about probability in the next couple of chapters. So if you're not sure how to calculate probabilities, don't worry about too much about that just yet. One other type of sampling method that you need to be familiar with is called a stratified random sample. And Gray actually mentioned something that would have been a stratified random sample yesterday in class. So we'll go with that example in just a second. In a stratified random sample, what you're going to do is you're going to take your population and you're going to divide it into groups, which we call strata, hence stratified. And then for each of those individual groups, you're going to choose a separate simple random sample for them, and you're going to get your sample from those individual SRSs. So the example that we've been talking about is finding the average height of all St. Francis students. And we talked yesterday about various ways, good and bad, that we could get a sample measurement for that. And one thing Gray mentioned is that we could split the population at school up into the various classes and then randomly choose students from each class. And that is exactly an example of a stratified random sample. Your various groups would be the different classes, freshmen through seniors. And then for each of those classes, you would choose a simple random sample from the students in that class. So a stratified random sample is related to a simple random sample because you choose simple random samples for each of your groups, but it is not quite the same thing as an SRS. It's sort of a more sophisticated version. Another type of sampling method is called a cluster sample. You need to be able to keep cluster samples and stratified random sampling differentiated, but they are sort of similar in that your first step is going to be to take your population and divide it into what we call clusters. Just another way to say we're divided into groups. But this time, instead of taking an SRS from each of our groups like we did with the stratified random sample, what we do here is we're going to randomly select entire clusters to be part of our sample. So let's continue our average height of St. Francis students examples this way. Instead of dividing the population of students here into their various classes, freshmen through seniors, let's say that we are going to group everybody by the section of English class that they take, because everyone here has to take an English class all 4 years. And so that's going to be a unique set. No one's going to be doubled up in English class, we're assuming. So that means everyone still has an equal chance of being selected since everyone is enrolled in an English class. But what we're going to do is we're going to number each of the sections of the English classes. I have no idea how many sections we have, but I would guess probably around 10. So maybe each of the English classes gets its own unique two-digit number, to correspond to it. And then we're going to randomly select maybe 3 of those English classes, and those will be the 3 clusters that we're going to use to comprise our sample. So every student in those 3 English classes that we randomly selected is going to be part of our sampling. And again, you just need to be able to keep stratified random samples and cluster samples separate in your mind.